Hello everybody, welcome back to the Contest Round podcast. I'm secretly laughing because this is the second time I've started this recording because there's been no audio, but now there's audio because I'm ever the professional and even joked in the first recording that, hey, something goes wrong. This is episode 84 of the Contest Round podcast, which Dan doesn't have to remind me for a second time because I learnt my lesson from that mistake. Yeah, we're ever the professionals here, you know.
But We're starting off strong as usual.
In 2022, and our first guest of 2022. So it's like, how do we look now? We look a bit of an embarrassment. Well, actually, no, I do. You don't. You're helping me out a lot.
Thank you, sir.
We're available on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes podcasts. And obviously, the voice that you just heard a moment ago was of Dan of Frontline MCOC, who you can find at www.frontlinemcoc.home.blog and on Twitter under the handle @frontlinemcoc. Dan, it's been a week and we've had a big loss already for 2022.
Yeah, it's tough. We did lose Realm of Champions this week. They did announce they'll be shutting the game down on March 31st. This is a game we had high hopes for when it was launched, and I think we're going to have to devote some time, further on in 2022 to a full dissection of what went wrong with the game. But today we're going to be very MCOC focused because we have a guest today. I'm very excited for who we've got here to talk shop.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find him under the handle on Twitter at Vega Playbook, and also link in the description of all platforms to his YouTube channel. Vega, thanks very much for calling in from San Francisco, no less, to talk about Marvel Contest of Champions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here.
That's no problem. We've been very interested in a theme of finding your fun and finding your happiness in Marvel Contest of Champions. And we really loved the video that you put out last year, which was the one that was how to be competitive and happy in Marvel Contest of Champions, and talking about so many different things. So we're really excited to kind of talk a bit about that, kind of integrate some talks about the state of the game. But I've got a few kind of like questions because I do want to kind of find out more about you, more about the player. So how long have you been playing Marvel Contest?
Yeah, that one's always pretty easy for me because I think like a lot of us, I just was like, oh, I need something to do for a few seconds. And it happened to coincide right around the time my youngest was born, and she's coming up on 7. So 6 to 7 years, 6 years off and on. So yeah.
Yeah, Vega, that's funny you say that because my oldest just turned 6, and like I downloaded the game right around that time that my wife was pregnant, and it was just like you're kind of sitting around. There's like lots of like waiting for stuff to happen. And it's it's like you just jump in and you can have something to do. Well, a couple quick games, and then the addiction balloons on you.
Absolutely right. Like a couple years later, you're like, whoa, it's no longer just a few minutes here and there, is it?
It is not, sir. It is not.
Oh man, what is your chosen device to play on at the moment? What's working well for you?
The iPhone. Yeah. So. And it's not the latest one, but I think it's one they put out like a year and a half ago. Yeah. Could be something
like the iPhone 11 or something like that. What do you think?
Yeah.
In any case, it's all good stuff. So you're in For Loki, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I've been there about a year and a half now.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I can imagine like we might have me, Dan, and yourself might have missed each other did we meet at New York Comic Con 2019 or? You new to, because I met a good chunk of For Loki then.
No, yeah, I was not there. In fact, I wasn't even doing content creation at the time yet, and so traveling out there for something that wasn't my thing yet.
Okay, brilliant. Is still Spider-Man 2099 your lead champion?
Yeah, I just took him to rank 4. So him and Shang-Chi are my 2 rank 4s. Yeah.
Oh, yep, fantastic. Yeah, I've just got up your lovely little... I tell you, it's impressive. So you're coming close to a base rating of 4 mil. Are you getting closer than 380,000? Sorry, 3,800,000, sorry.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, I played this game casually for so long that was never something I paid attention to. And it really just the ranking up of champions now is more so that I can have smooth duels when I need to take a tough war fight.
That's that's absolutely. We'll talk a little bit more about Alliance Wars, kind of like, and how your experience is. But what's your favorite side event or side quest?
I mean, there's so many, right? Like, and I don't think you would include them with the side quests, but like the Grandmaster's Gauntlet, Summer of Pain were amazing.
Oh yeah, Grandmaster Gauntlet is a personal favorite of mine. It's probably my most favorite piece of content. And also, I think it's when you got, for me, I got a massive payoff because as soon as I finished and got the rewards, I got Doctor Doom as 6-star, and then a week later, I got him again. So I have fond memories if you've got a good champion after some quite meaty content.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you pull those champions, you're like, yeah, Mike's Revenge wasn't that bad, right?
Damn right.
And Vega, you did a ton of content around the Gauntlet too. Like I remember you had like one of the go-to like breakdowns of that event when I was trying to like craft my team, and I eventually like didn't end up exploring the whole thing because I hadn't pulled Professor X yet because it just seemed like you needed him, and now that I have him, I'm like, when is this thing coming back?
Yeah, I can't believe I would have thought it was back by now.
Yeah,
me too. Yeah,
a lot of people disagree with that, but I really would have thought it was back by now, or at least we would have had a message saying, "Hey, get ready," in February or something like that. So I've been surprised by that.
Yeah, I would have hoped it would come out in December, at least like 6 months after. Which actually, I think it was June, wasn't it? They came out, so I kind of thought 6 months later, half a year, bring that back. It's definitely something that I enjoyed doing, and I think I've got like, it'd be interesting as well with all the new champions put in since and the buffs to kind of like look at guides and potential options. How do you find, moving the question on, how do you find Alliance Wars at the top flight? What's your experience with it or feeling towards it?
So, I really love it. I really do. And if you go back far enough in my channel, you'll see, I think it was like summer of last year, there's a moment where I clearly didn't love it. And I was not playing well. And I had just a lot going on. Like I'm like everyone else, right? I have a life and a job, and I actually have I have 2 kids, so I know not everyone has that. But sometimes you just can't dedicate as much time. And absolutely. I had multiple terrible awards in a row, and I did not love that. Yeah. But the fact that game mode could create that negative of an experience, and not negative in that like I had to spend a lot of units or it felt like a cash grab or all these other I think more stereotyped ways that we think of negative. The fact that like I could feel that badly, that I was letting my friends down, why am I doing this, I need to take a break, to me is a great balance to the fact that it can also create these incredible highs where you take those last 3 bosses, and I mean, I'm gonna say names just because it's helpful for me, but like, I mean, I even had a video where like Legacy placed a horseman pre-fight for me. Yeah. So like I'm clearing a war fight, and then I move on to the next mini boss, and Legacy places a pre-fight, and then Taters places one, and then I go in and I solo the boss, and I'm just like, yes, that was absolutely amazing. And my BG is there, and we're all cheering each other on, and we've had this great clear, and we've only had 1 death. And so it is, for me, it's also creating those incredible highs. So I know not everyone loves it. I'm not advocating everyone tries to play the game that way. But if that sounds fun to you, I think it is still an incredible game mode.
Yeah, I mean, what you just talked about was an idea of like great camaraderie and strategy, which is, something that I've been out of Alliance Wars for the best part of like, I think it's a year, maybe even more than that. As it just wasn't something I particularly enjoyed. But listening to this element, as I said, camaraderie, the idea that you're kind of using horsemen to kind of full advantage of that, means that it would be great if there was something that you could do more to help each other whilst you're fighting, rather than kind of concentrating on your own solo elements of grind through that game mode. So that's a real kind of eye-opener there, which I think people may not properly or may not have encountered themselves. So that's pretty cool.
Sorry, Rich, can I just jump in with a couple questions about Alliance War? Because Vega, you post a lot of Alliance War videos. Yeah. And, I've always felt that however you feel about Alliance War videos are the best thing to watch if you want to get better at the game. because of the breakdowns in the strategy. And I remember like years ago, like when I pulled Stark and Hand Spider-Man, like Legacy being like the guy.
Yeah.
And you know, just so many tricks. And you like, wow, there's so much depth here. So could you get into, like, you post a lot of Alliance War videos. Like, what's your goal when you post an Alliance War video? Because I know, you know, you post the good and the bad, which I appreciate. So what do you do there?
Yeah. So, like I said, I've had a channel for around a year and a half. I think I need to look, and I should probably figure out exactly when I started. I remember the first video I posted, and if anyone ever went back and watched some of them, they'd see like a massive evolution in my war videos. Because even though I've enjoyed war, I haven't always been very good at it. And I definitely wanted to get better, because I agree with exactly what you just said. Is like, I remember watching Brian Grant, I remember watching Legacy, and they would drop these nuggets about the champion because of the fight they were facing, that then I could go and use and get better and clear Labyrinth of Legends or what have you with those champions. Like, just nuance that I had never considered before. And so in my war videos, I do everything I can to continue that, because I agree that like I have a rankings team, and almost all of them do war videos. And I say I watch these channels to get better at the game, and I really mean it. Is they are helping me get better because they're dropping these nuance nuggets of information, and so I'm trying to do that as well. I also have the benefit of getting assignments from, and Rich, this goes back to what you're saying as far as like strategy and camaraderie. I play with Taters and Lizer, two like the smartest players I've ever known in this game, and so they assign these pretty lengthy war assignments, and they'll even have notes on the fight. And so if I can convey that in my videos, then I feel like anyone who's watching them, whether the gameplay is good or not, they've learned something about how to use Mole Man or Guardian or, you know, Archangel or what have you, whoever I've taken into those fights.
Yeah, that's the thing that amazes me at like the top level, is the coaching you get from the officers and the hours they put into a single war. When you talk about those notes, and because they're trying to avoid like every death possible, so they're telling you where any landmines are on the way to like taking a fight, right? Like, you're getting significant, you know, coaching from Lizers and Taters for every fight, right?
So like, and I'll talk about this as long as you guys want to, but like, it's off season still, right?
Yeah.
And we had a full map placed for us. This is last night for us. And I was at section 2, lane 9. I can't remember I never remember names of nodes, but I think it was like One Eye Open, and one of the nodes that places, I think it's Bleed and Shock on you. And there was an Ebony Maw place. And they had me taking it with Mole Man. And I direct messaged Taters, and I was like, how do you want me to break his focus? Like, I was bewildered by this.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, okay, let him hit into your block once you've had Monster Mass, and then you'll have plenty of time to land your heavy. And I was like, oh, genius! I would have never thought of that. And there's the fight still actually went a little sideways, but that sort of nuance that I still had time to knock down Ebony Maw, breaking his focus and resetting all of that by using something in Mole Man's kit, which I'm sure, you know, half people listening are like, of course, but I had not thought of that. And so conveying that sort of information, I think I like it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, it sounds like Taters to me. And by the way, like, Taters put out one of my favorite ever, like, tier list, or kind of when he did the champion indexes, like one of the best. And I kind of imagine in my mind being something like in the UK, like for soccer, well, I'd say football, like a great manager, the same thing what you would say like American football, just like, you know, you got to go to the end zone, and it's got like I don't know, like a big kind of like whiteboard of kind of like, you go in here like this, and if you do this, this will happen. That's how I kind of always imagine him as a leader. I think even like when I met him, the way that I kind of said to him, if I remember back in 2019, was like, you've done an amazing job with For Loki, and he was obviously very incredibly humble and kind of said, oh, you know, the old leadership put a fundamental structure in place for him to kind of like adapt and improve. But it's like, it just speaks to a great leader to have that element of individual coaching and have a great kind of management, but also kind of personal and friendship style that you can really bounce off of. So it's really great to kind of learn something on the inside of what goes on at For Loki.
100%, absolutely. And like, I've been very lucky in that the times I've taken war seriously, I've almost always played for a player. His name he's Daddy Longlegs, I think, in the game, but DLL, and then Taters, and everything you just said. Like, I consider myself friends with both of them, because it's not just like, hey, here's the X's and O's. Although those are ever present, and without them, I know I would not do as well as I do. But it is also friendly. Like, we're friends. So that's a great analogy with the football manager and then, the football coach. Yeah,
absolutely. Vega, just one more question about like war and how your rank ups play into war strategy, or maybe this is more AQ strategy, because you've ranked up your 2 rank 4s. You just said Spider-Man 2099, who's near the top of the prestige for science, and then you've got Shang-Chi, who's pretty close, but he's no Thor Ragnarok. So I'm wondering, were those war rank ups, were those AQ rank ups, a little bit of both, and how much input or pressure did you feel from the leadership of For Loki when making those choices?
I actually wanted input and pressure from the leadership of For Loki, and they refused to do it. Like, it was almost frustratingly difficult for me, because I had come from a long time of trying to get AQ1, playing high prestige game where it wasn't so much that ranks were enforced. It was just a matter of, well, you don't have to rank up Surfer, but if you don't and we find someone who does, we'd be happy to give them your spot. That sort of like, it's not, they're not being jerks, they're just being very matter of fact. And so I wanted Tater, I wanted Taters and Lizer, and I was like, hey, who are we going to use? Who are we going to use? And they would always come back with the same answers. One is, we don't enforce rank ups, and 2, look, you've been here long enough. You know that you may get assigned, Guardian, Mole Man, and Archangel this war, and the next war you're going to get Spider-Man, Mr. Negative, and like Immortal Abomination. And so we don't want to ever tell anyone to rank someone up, because they might not even get to use them. Like, I've took up Shang-Chi, the one war he got assigned in one war that season. Lizer, I think, was trying to like throw me a bone. She was for me. And I actually messaged her, and I was like, look, as much as I want to use him, because I want to write R4 Shang-Chi on a thumbnail and put that on YouTube, I don't think he's the best option for this fight. And I think I should take in Cable. I remember it specifically because it was going to help get Apocalypse fully charged right away. Right. And she's like, yeah, I think so too. She's like, I was just kind of trying to do you a solid, and I knew you could get it done with Shang-Chi. So like, everyone's got the same goal, and that's to do really well in war and have fun with the game. And so that's kind of how it worked. Yeah.
Right. Going back to because you mentioned like in the power index that Tatus put out, and basically the big kind of push out of tier lists. Everybody loves a tier list. So I'm very interested in ones that differ from the norm. And you have a tier list, and it differs from the norm. So if you could just talk us through what you feel yours differs, or explain to people why you think yours. Obviously, go and watch the video. Check out Vega, and links in the description. But how do you feel yours differs, and can you explain some of the methodology behind its creation, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. And it has been a bit of an evolution. I'll try to quickly talk about the beginning. The beginning is like, I'm the guy that will sit there with you and share a beer or a soda or whatever and debate like who's the best striker of all time or who's the best point guard of all time. Like, I don't want to get angry about it because I think ultimately it's very subjective, but I enjoy that. I enjoy that. I feel like we can learn, and it's fun, and I like being playful. Yeah. And that's kind of how it started. I felt like I had information. I wanted to get it out there, but I wanted to learn and back and forth. And I still do go through, and I think I read every comment. I try to. But I enjoyed going back and forth and hearing about people's experience and them saying like a very common one was, look, dude, you're really wrong about Hitmonkey. I've used him so much in Act 6. He helps me in AQ. He's helped me here and there and everywhere, right? And I was like, okay, if this many people are telling me that, and I can go and verify that with people on my Discord or online chats, then chances are I'm wrong, right? And so we elevated Hitmonkey, and then as my channel has actually grown and the tier list itself is performing better and better, more views and things, it's evolved significantly.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point now where ultimately what I'm trying to do is give rank up advice with a spreadsheet, which I think is almost impossible, but I think we're reaching a nice happy medium with it. And I've brought on a rankings team of players, like they're channels I enjoy watching, that I learn from. Like there are people who I go to every day and like, have they downloaded something, or have they uploaded something? I'm going to download it. Yeah. And that way, it's not just me. It's not just my experience. It's not, because no one can play every champion, right? Like
absolutely,
it's just,
yeah, way too many.
Yeah. And then I also want to acknowledge, because I know this is why some people don't like tier lists, and I think it's valid.
Yeah.
Is there's no way Null's always better than Hyperion, or Hyperion's always better than Null, or any. It's just not possible in this game. It's way too complex. Yeah. And so what I tried to do is break it down into as few tiers as possible.
Yep.
While still being able to provide some sort of nuance to, look, Nick Fury's usually going to be better than someone else. Black Widow, Deadly Origin. Mm-hmm. And so just kind of going through that. And then one of the things I try to mix in as much as possible is what I see as like trending, or the evolution of the game.
Yeah.
And just like as Kabam continues to push, like the difference, like I think there's been a lot going on with the classes as far as Science and Mystic.
Yeah.
And kind of talking about that and mirroring that, or showing that to people so that they can look at it and be like, okay, cool. I just pulled this champion. And then what does Vega think? And then the other thing I always try to remember to recommend in every single video is you've got to play them. You play this champion. Please don't ever look at my video and say like, okay, Vega thinks they're top shelf. That's what I call my basically my highest tier. Mm-hmm. And Vega thinks so I'm going to rank them up. Like, absolutely not. Almost no champion in this game is an absolute must-have. And if you don't enjoy playing them, you're not going to. So don't waste your rank up resources ranking them up, because that's all it will be, is a waste.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job with putting elements of additional structure, and as you said, like it's essentially turning into rank up advice, because that's what a lot of people are doing. They're kind of looking for the hot list. It's like saying, like, if you got a I think, because we don't have this in the UK when it comes to certain sports, but like a draft list of baseball or whatever, where you are picking the hottest talent. This is very different because it goes further above and beyond to say things like on your legend, which you've got the markers to say ranking dependent on awakened ability, ranking dependent on synergies, big boost from high or max sig, and it's great to even have the elements of very recoil mastery friendly, which essentially that's what people are coming to these tier lists, is go, do I rank up the new hot list, the new hottest, or do I wait for the old busted to get buffed so I can then rank them up? So yeah, the concept is fantastic, and it is very interesting. This is why people should go and check out Vega. Links are in descriptions, by the way, and I think this is great. This is what tier lists need to evolve into, and I think that's the problem where Seaton, who I'd say popularized it within the community, then it's the weight on the shoulders when it's like, look, people going, no, you've got this in the wrong place, that in the wrong place, with this going above and beyond, or kind of going in your own direction, and other people as well have had theirs go in other directions as well. This is very solid, so that's you should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I have to say, a lot of those good ideas, that like literally the things you were mentioning with the icons and what, they're from the viewers. They're from people making comments saying it would be really helpful if, and I was very resistant to a lot of them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, thankfully the viewers, like, they would months and months in a row say like, no, it would be really beneficial to know this information if we could.
Yeah.
And then so like, okay, how do we convey that? And so it's honestly the viewers, like, and read their comments.
That's brilliant. Right, we're going to move now on to what is the main topic of discussion, of bringing everything to a nice scheme of things, of talking about a video that you put out, and also something that we've had as a kind of a, well, mindset through 2021, and talk about the future of the game in 2022. So keeping oneself happy in the game when there's a lot of negativity, a lot of things that maybe Kabam are taking the game in a certain direction that maybe people don't like, and the fairness elements of things. So what we're going to do is talk about each area of the game. So we've kind of highlighted several things, like talk about side quests, story quests, rewards, progression, free-to-play versus spenders, AI, response time, incursions, solo competitive mode, alliance wars, and an AQ. So what we're going to do is kind of break down each area, talk about some stuff when it comes to the state of it, and also just bring it back to this, how we're finding happiness within the game. So let's start with kind of going, Vega, how do you keep yourself happy in the game, or how do you focus your happiness when it comes to playing in the game?
Yeah. The biggest step for me, guys, was accepting what I believe the game is, or at least a portion of the game. And I say it in the video, but I truly believe that part of the game, whether it's intentional or not, we can't know the mindset, is to get you to that's the old hurry up and wait. And you can often do that by spending money. You can hurry up, but then often, and I'm not saying you don't ever do it, I'm just saying, like, often what happens are these massive whales, is that they're now, like, if they're going to keep that quote unquote lead, they need to keep spending at that rate. Yeah. Or maybe even higher, right? And so once I accepted that, it was so much easier for me to just find my fun. I know it's your guys' term. It's a great term. Find your fun. And so I was able to then focus on what I actually enjoyed, as opposed to trying to keep up.
Yeah. I think that's exactly it. I know for me it took years. I think now at a point, year 7 now of playing the game, I know where I can find, like, happiness without kind of going like, oh, I have to do this, I have to remain competitive, everything else. Oh, everybody's doing this and I'm not doing this. And it's like, well, sometimes I like to do what I like to do, and that's made me still want to play the game after 7 years. Dan, where are you up to at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, my focus recently has been on story quest and kind of stepping really far back from competitive AQ and AW, so I don't feel like I'm on the clock and I'm getting pinged. I think the thing, Vega said something, you have to, that's great. Like, you have to accept the game for what it is. And one of the things about this game is, like, it's a very large game with hundreds of characters and a lot of different game modes, and there's not enough time to do everything unless you're Brian Grant. So, like, my thing was, like, towards, like, the end of the fall and December, I was really thinking, like, what do I want to do next year in 2022? And, like, I remember thinking back to 2018 when I was like, I'm going to 100% Act 5. And that was my goal. And that was, like, the push. And then I did 100% Labyrinth, and that was, like, some of my best memories of the game.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm backed up. I haven't 100% at Act 6. I haven't 100% at Act 7. So now it's like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna redirect my focus on those solo modes. I'm gonna put the heavy alliance stuff aside, and I'm just gonna focus on that. And like I posted on my Twitter today, like, I'm just trying to set a goal for the week. Like, my goal for this week was, like, I'm gonna get 4-star Toad, and I'm going to 100% one of the maps in Act 7.2. And that's my goal for the week. And if I do those two things, which are manageable for me, given the time I have this week, I'm going to be happy, because I'm going to be progressing, and I'm going to be pushing myself a little bit, but not setting myself up for failure. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like, I'm going to try to clear one map in Act 7 a week until I get it done. And then we'll see what gets released by the time that's done. If 7.4 is out, or I go back into Act 6, or there's a new variant. But that's kind of where I'm at. I want to get 100% on the story quest, and then be able to look at some of these Karina challenges, or maybe Abyss at that point.
Yeah. That's nice. I think that's where we're all kind of at a point of taking the time we have allocated, and it's a case of going like, look, I don't have to play 8 hours a day. I don't have to play 4 hours a day. I don't have to play 2 hours a day. It may be a case of going, I only play 1 hour a day, but create these kind of micro challenges that feel like you have accomplished. You get that burst of endorphins when it's done, and you're like, okay, great. I'm now going to go for a run outside. I'm going to focus on another project. I'm going to spend time with my loved ones, and you feel accomplished in that moment. With having, is it 2 children that you have, Vega? How do you find a balance there, or do you have like set time? You go, okay, well, this is the time here, and it's like, okay, I've done my little gaming time, and now I'm going to go and spend some time with my children, or time with partner, time doing this. How do you find a good balance?
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate in that I have a job that I cherish, but is also incredibly flexible.
Yeah, that's good.
That's very helpful. And then I know I talk about war a lot, but war was actually really helpful to me in kind of coming up with some rules for it. In that I don't like playing the game in front of my kids.
Yeah.
Like if we're going to be doing screen time or something, like I want to be playing with them, like with on the Nintendo Switch or whatever, right? And so a long time ago, I would try to get a war fight in while they were there, because like you said, you get pinged or what have you, and you feel responsible, and the camaraderie, all the things we talked about. But I noticed my rate of deaths went up significantly when trying to play in front of my kids, even if it was a war fight. And so that's really helped me stick to my general principle of like, I just don't play in front of them. And then my wife, my partner, she's very she's understanding, especially once I started the channel and all that stuff, where I'm like, I need 15 minutes. And she's like, yeah, cool, take them. And so nice. I'll take that small chunk and do a couple duels, throw on the boosts, and then get those war fights done or something like that.
Okay, that's nice. Again, it's like it's taking the time away from situations like, right, well, that's like a segment in time that's done. You don't find this overlap. I think once you start overlapping things, like, I don't know, you could be in a theme park, and like, and there's been like times I've had the same thing where I've been with them, and I've been like, oh, I've got to go on data right now in the middle of a theme park, or kind of like out somewhere. It's like, oh, I've got to move in a queue, and it's like taking that out of my vocabulary or my kind of list of words associated. It's like it's great to stop saying that. So yeah, that's the other kind of element of kind of finding your fun, is eliminating your stress or pressure to separate out. And I think that's the same thing with work. It does feel like work at times with MCOC, so separating them out is very nice and very not spiritually rewarding, but I think you know what I mean. When it comes to the things in game, like, how do we feel about and I'll start with Vega on this, over the space of like the last year with the monthly side quests, where do we feel like the fun and innovation is kind of stopping, and the kind of complications with kind of reading more windows and stuff is kind of coming in? How are you feeling at the moment with side quests?
I'm not one who enjoys reading the lengthy nodes. I think one, because it's difficult for me. Anyone who's ever seen me stream and try to read them, it's comical, because I can't do all those things at once. So I don't enjoy that. I also don't have a solution, right? Like, it's easy to complain. It's a lot harder to find the solution of how do they keep it fresh and help us use these rosters that have grown and that sort of thing, without being overly niche and demanding, like a lot of the. I agree. I think it was good feedback on X6 was. So that's really difficult. But I have to say that, like, this month, the side and the monthly, I've really enjoyed both. Like, to me, they're fantastic. In that, especially the side, right? It's the one where we have the strikers and things like that. You just play the game. And what I mean by that is like, I actually don't know how I'm technically supposed to accumulate the compasses, but by grinding out 4-star Toad And by doing AQ, I guess, and doing some arena, and then doing a little bit of 7.3, I think I have almost all of the. I think I almost have all the compasses, or at least I'm close to the ending. I can't think of the word right now, guys, but
the solo objectives for like
yeah.
it's like play with you play with a member of the X-Men or defeat a mutant or X-Men, those ones.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I couldn't think of the term objective. Like, and all I did was play the game, and it happened.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
that.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
vote-
you didn't have to think about, oh, dude, I killed this skill character with a light attack.
Yeah.
Like where it's like that stuff kind of takes away from the experience for me when it's like the objectives are a little too niche.
I made a joke about it on a couple times where I'm like, bless his heart. Like, I saw Karate Mike, I watched the video where he was like showing us how to, I don't remember what month it was, but he's like, all you gotta do, you go to Road to the Labyrinth, and then you're gonna do this, and you're gonna end it with 5 times, and then you're gonna hit refresh, and you're gonna do, I was like, I mean, he's so engaging and entertaining, but after a little while, it's like, no, man, this just isn't fun. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I think what, Kabam has struggled with, particularly with the side quests, maybe this month is different because we've got a new game mechanic. So that, by definition, gives us something new to evaluate, and Strikers has been well received. So, yay, Kabam. You guys need some W's, and I'm glad you're getting one with Strikers. I think what happened towards the end of 2020, maybe early 2021, it was like the innovation came with complexity.
Yeah.
And like how am I supposed to play this? Like things like Jubilee's Arcade, or like the Gauntlet, the Hercules Gauntlet thing. Or no, it was Odin's Gauntlet, right? It's just like, okay, like I need instructions before I can actually get into it. And then people like, am I spending my resources correctly? And it's like that kind of stuff is not fun for players. Like, I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to give us options, but it ended up just like upsetting everyone. And then like the complexity just led to the events not launching correctly anyway. So it's like, I remember submitting a lot of feedback around that time. It's like, I know you guys are trying to innovate, but it's like, you need to innovate and be able to describe it in a sentence. You know, like that was the thing I think they were really struggling with, is like anything new just became really complex at that time.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad there's people like yourself providing actual constructive feedback, because like I said, it's frustrating. I can identify what I don't like about it, but I don't feel comfortable providing feedback. So I'm like, I also don't know how to improve it, so because I do think this month's been great.
Yeah.
I also I know I think I'm in the minority on this. I didn't mind last month. There was the one, I think it was the Nick Fury chapter, was a little rough, but it wasn't terrible, So
yeah. When it comes to, let's say, the direction of Act 7, are we going in a sort of way that's kind of backwards to stuff with Act 6? I know you mentioned about like the notes. One of the things that I've got a little bit bored with Act 7.3 was one of the reasons I stopped partway through was I was just getting annoyed with seeing too many nodes to read. Yeah. How are you kind of feeling with that? Again, we'll kind of go back to the aspect of fun and talking about like reading too many nodes. It's one thing that really kind of pushed Katie Candy in a way that she was like, do you know what? I don't want to have to read. I just want to get on and swipe and tap and play the game. How are you kind of feeling that Kabam are going in a direction that may be a little bit backwards, or do you think that it's fine, or how do you feel about them?
I would love if they separated it out. And I think this also ties into a lot of what we saw over the course of this year, in that I believe, now again, I don't know the mindset, but I believe that there was a time when story content was kind of like the end game. Like, I think Act 6 was supposed to be, this is the toughest thing that you will face.
Yeah.
And a lot of the feedback was like, look, we don't want story content to be like that. That's not fun. That's not engaging. And then they dialed that back, and then we got Gauntlet and Summer of Pain.
Yeah.
And I think that was supposed to, I'm supposing these things. And what I would love if they do is they'd kind of just like, and I'm not placing blame here, but
Yeah.
like make up their mind in a way.
Yes.
And be like, look, you want to swipe, tap, tap, and be able to stream and entertain and talk and press, your stream deck and all these things while you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you do story quest or you do the side quest. That's
Yeah.
every month it's going to come out. It's basically like we want you guys logging in and we want you to have a chance to use all your champions. You can watch a stream, you can do the stream, like that's that. Bang, done. And then we'll have story quests be a little bit more niche, a few more nodes to read, that sort of thing. But you're not going to get those in-game rewards. Like, don't expect a massive amount of rank 4 materials, currently.
Yeah.
And every couple months, or twice a year, you're going to get Summer Pain or Grandmaster's Gauntlet, and then that's going to be your reading test. Your reading test, and are you figuring out the nuance of landing your heavy when Ebony Maw attacks into you with Mole Man? Like,
Yeah.
I would love it if, instead of blending all of those different priorities into all of these modes, if it was just more clearly distinct and separated. I think that would be, I would enjoy that, I believe, and I think the player base would enjoy it. I don't know.
Sold me. I think that's exactly it.
Yeah, I think that's that's a great point, Vega. I think sometimes the community can be a bit of its own enemy with like the conflicting feedback, because for the scenario you're describing, players have to be able to look at a piece of content and say, this isn't for me. Like, because we all have different sweet spots, right? It's like, sometimes like a variant comes out or a boss rush comes out and it's like, everyone thinks they're the average player and that everything should be like, I'm the average player, right? Like 50% of the people are better than me, 50% of the people are worse. Anything that comes out should be aimed exactly at my roster, and there's just no way to do that with a 7-year-old game. And we've got people that have just jumped in, people that have got 4 million account rating at this point. So it's like you kind of have to pick your spots and understand, like like maybe this boss rush isn't for me. Like I kind of looked at like when Variant 6 came out, like I was like, this is pretty boring, but it's also like I'm taking every fight with a rank 3 Apocalypse and a Sig 200 Dr. Doom. So of course, like there's not much challenge there. So it's kind of like one of those things, like we have to be able as players like look back and say, like, is this good for the people Kabam intends it to? Now on the flip side, they should do more in communication with saying this is the goal of this content and who we're aiming it for, and just try to understand that.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. And like the comments in YouTube can get a little toxic. So I'm not saying like, hey, go read the comments.
But
things that's happened as far as creating a channel is interacting with people, like, and having a Discord server, because I know that there is a part of the community that's like, oh, January's been so boring, in February, and there was nothing in December. But I am reading comments daily and interacting with people daily who are like, hey, dude, how do I get through 6.2? I've really got this tough fight. Or should I rank up this 5-star or that 5-star? And it helps remind me. It helps refresh my memory. It takes me out of like that own little personal bubble. That's okay. It's not, it doesn't make me a bad person or anyone a bad person, but like, and to remind me like how many people are playing this game and what and how they're playing it and where they're in their progression. So for not for us, but for these massive accounts, like, yeah, there hasn't been something quote unquote new this month. For a large amount of the player base, they're still just working through 7 and 6. Like I am too. I don't have 7.3 fully explored. I don't, know, and I think that's okay. So
yeah.
I mean, it's interesting what you say about the perspective, and we're all, like I was saying, we all think we're average, or like, maybe things should be catered to us, but we also think that like the people that we play with are having like the average experience. Like on your Find Your Fun video where you're talking about gifting, like you quote the stat about how 95% of the players are free to play. I've actually seen Kabam say that number is like 97% of the players who play the game are free to play, and you got a lot of kickback from that, saying like, no, half the players spend. It's like, no, half the players spend. Not half the players in the game. Like we all have sample sizes which are not the people in our alliance, like, oh yeah, like most people in my alliance spend, so therefore everyone spends. Like that's not true. Like if Kabam could get, like we've already seen the sales numbers and they're doing really well. If half the players were paying, they would have the most profitable game in the history of games.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of one of those things you got to remember. Like there's such a big picture out there, and not everyone thinks the game is dry in January because there's still a bunch of content they haven't done.
Absolutely, could not agree more.
And it's maybe something that they may have. For me, I don't say I've put off on purpose, but I've definitely felt to myself that I've got time to play more things that I didn't have time for, like finally get back to Variant 8. Same thing with Dan. We're starting back to work on Act 7. I mean, it may be a case you may go, oh, this month I fancy doing some Act 7.3 exploring and kind of pushing that to 100%. This is just a point of going, what do I fancy doing, rather than going, I have to do something, which is always nice. And I don't know where Kabam will go with Act 8. I don't know if they'll kind of figure out a good way around it. I think the biggest thing that I see a problem with is rewards volume. I think you mentioned it briefly a moment ago, Vega. Where do we kind of feel like rewards are, especially like how it influences free-to-play versus those that spend? I mean, it's interesting that, learning there's a low percentage of spenders in the game, but and how that, but then you can see the massive picture of how that really shifts the roster, prestige, and things like that. Where do we up to with rewards versus spending, Vega?
Yeah, I will admit, I think I cut out there for a few seconds, so if I go way too off track, please.
That's
please
fine.
Rewards, like rewards versus spending.
Yeah,
So
it's a tough one.
Yeah, it is, and when the gifting hit, the rewards came out. It was really good for me again to go into my Discord server and to DM with friends, people in my own alliance or in alliances I'm in or channels I watch. So these are people playing it. I think the end game. I try not the end game. Let's call it, right. Tier 1 war, what have you. And it hurt. It hit them hard. It hit them really, really hard. And that was not my response to it at all. And so I really wanted to listen, read, and obviously try to understand. And one of the things I kept hearing was like feeling like he had caught up, or like how can I ever catch up? And that's what kind of helped me formalize my thoughts on it all. Was I was like, you don't, because I felt like I had accepted that a long time ago, and I remember how difficult and genuinely stressful, like in my own life. That was this feeling of like catching up or trying to stay quote unquote competitive or what have you. And I think
I was just going to say, like, did you feel the same way when and I think for me the big turning point was when we had rank 5 stars. Like, it was a kind of like history repeats itself type of narrative.
So I know that there was I'm trying hard to like not I think the term's like straw man someone's video.
Yeah.
Because that's fair. They're not present, and I make a video and then I'm like, well, that didn't come out exactly how I intended or what have you. So I'm trying really hard not to do that. But I don't know. I would not say this is how it's always been.
Yeah.
Because I do think the quote unquote facts and the percentiles and things like that are different, and they have evolved over time. What I feel strongly is that is finding how you want to be quote unquote competitive. Kind of like I think Dan was saying, like, I wanted to finish one path of 7.2.
Yeah.
And so he was competitive with himself. And
yes.
He's very happy. I think I saw on Twitter this morning, I believe, that he was able to do it. And that's really awesome. Right now, I'm enjoying trying to compete in Tier 1 War and help 4 Loki make Masters. And so whatever I need to do, the rank ups I need to rank up, or the content I need to complete in order to get the rewards for that, while hopefully having a good time in the process, I will do. And so it's not that I'm not concerned about the pay versus not. It's more that the way I view it is, if there are 30 people in this game that want to spend $35,000 and above, let's be honest with ourselves, I'm sure some of them spent significantly more.
Yeah.
Gifting event. I mean, honestly, like we see the drop rates, like we can do the math, right?
Right.
If they want to spend that much money and more, I'm not going to say I'm going to sit there and cheer them on. I'm not a cheerleader, I don't have my popcorn out watching it, enjoying it. But at the same time, I'm not competing with them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm not fazed by that. One of the things that made a ton of sense to me, though, is this idea of if free-to-play players who, as we just said, maybe make up 90% or 97% of the player base, if they don't feel engaged, then that's just as bad, right?
Yeah.
That's just as bad. And so, like, as Kabam, and if it goes back to my hope of like separating out the different modes of the game and where the rewards are coming from, if they formalize that, or if they kind of get it wrap around, whoa, okay, wait a minute, maybe free to play should have had the chance, should they have bought all these offers with units and progressed enough in the game and finished the content, maybe they should have had a rank 4 by now.
Yeah.
I think that sounds really good. Something that helps players feel like they can progress in this game by, and I don't like to use the term just playing it, because I think the way the game is situated, unfortunately, spending a lot of money is also a way of playing the game. Right?
Yeah.
At least I think that. And so, but if by completing content they can get the rewards, that would be a really good thing. So maybe buffing that up somehow, but then that even gets difficult by, like you said, like not everyone's Brian Grant. Not everyone is that skilled and has that kind of time. And so I think that gets really tricky as well.
Yeah, at times, especially looking at the situation of spenders and non-spenders, the way that Kabam maybe have kind of made rewards versus spending is kind of, again, down to appeasing the minority. Not appeasing the minority, focusing too much on the minority rather than the majority. Which obviously you can look at, like people the free to play versus spenders volume. It would definitely be nice to see a bump in rewards to things like end game content, story mode content, and I know we had things like Summer of Pain to help out with that. I guess it just goes back to how Kabam treat the premium item. The premium items currently being the tier 6 basics and tier 3 alpha, to put into things in more higher volumes into Cyber Weekend deals, July 4th deals and things like that. So I wonder if we now, coming into 2022, that we'll start seeing more of a higher volume of those rewards.
I think that'd be cool. I think for me is, as I sit there and I think about what I said, and is like how you frame it. Is I think ultimately people are using the term competitive, but what I hear a lot is I would like to be able to progress my account.
Yes.
Like when you really speak about it, they're like, no, I get it. I'm never catching the guys in NY. Like I'm not competing with them. And you're like, well, then what's really the problem? They're like, well, I want to progress my account too. And you're like, okay, well that makes sense. That's legitimate. And Kabam's creating a scenario where players don't feel like they can progress their account. Then that's bad for the game, right? I feel very comfortable saying that. And so hopefully that does get picked up a little bit. Where, and I don't know how they do that. I don't know if it's through story content or what have you, but that's got to happen.
Yeah, because the biggest problem that we're kind of pointing at is the fundamental bad thing about gaming is if you don't feel you're progressing, or you feel that you have reached a place where there's a gate and you cannot go through the gate and you can't climb over the gate, then you start to question why you're playing the game. So that's an absolute nail on the head right there that they need to kind of look into. And I guess that is the problem that we see. I mean, me and Dan are going to talk about Marvel Realm of Champions in another video, but it's very much a case of Kabam made similar mistakes with that, which, you know, there are ways around it in MCOC, but it's definitely a case of you need gates to open rather than gates closed and walls unscalable. But we got to move on, and we got to talk about the other elements of the game, from what is fun about, and like how we all kind of like feeling about the enemy AI response and the current engine? Because Dan, we talk about each week. We talk about the new game engine that will be coming. I think Kabam Mike last week talked about it as well. They're building this new game engine. But
Right.
Vega, how do you feel about, since say July time, the way the AI has been, response times, and just like the feeling with the how a fight kind of works in MCOC?
Well, I feel like the AI has become very skilled at stepping back my dashes and punishing me for them.
Yeah.
I want to compliment them on that, but I mean, I think a lot of that is there's been more and more. I don't remember when this first started getting called out, of the AI basically like block baiting in a way that
Yes.
they'll block and then they won't. It's a very quick jittery movement there, and then Map 8 came out, and the Map 8 AI was driving me absolutely insane, and I provided very constructive criticism about that on the CCP server, and I did get a response, and the response I thought was very flippant at the time, and it was well, sometimes when I'm trying to bait special, I hit block more. I hit their block, and I say, thanks. I've been playing this game for 7 years. I'm aware of hitting the block. but I wanted to be polite, and I wrote thank you. And I'm not kidding, guys. I've started hitting the block more.
Yeah.
And I've found the AI is much more willing to throw their specials.
Yep.
And I believe I was a player who was already aware of this tactic and was implementing it regularly. And so I don't know if that's been a change, where if that tactic has become more powerful or not. I don't know. I don't have the statistics to back this up. But since I received the advice that I thought was flippant and borderline sarcastic, and I started implementing it, I have noticed I am enjoying the AI significantly more. So take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know if it's what it's saying. I think I saw a response from a Kabam dev that said if you kind of you can reset the AI by multiple taps on your block. So do the block, release the block, block down, block out, block in, block out. Is that similar? Or I don't know, but I sometimes see some weird responses to stuff, and I go no, this is just we're playing this game. It says 7 years, and we're like, right, so I'm the problem now.
I think one of the interesting things I've seen lately from the AI, and I've noticed this in Act 7 a lot, is it's almost like the defender is willing to stand a little bit closer to you than usual.
Yeah.
And that can mess up your parry timing. Trying to set up your spacing correctly to either parry or counter or intercept, that seems to have evolved for me. I don't know that I necessarily think that's good or bad, but it certainly makes you think a lot more.
Yeah, my champion and the defender are having a lot more staring contests.
Yes.
I've noticed that. And when they do fix the engine, and I believe they will, because they need to, they're working hard on it.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we're all going to have to relearn parry again.
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting experience. At least I think that's the case, if I understand it. I'm obviously not educated on these things. But the block thing, though, is I also then started thinking about it. I do think we're seeing more and more in the game as far as champions or abilities or nodes that deal with hitting into the block.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know if that makes sense as far as an engineering side and all that, but to me it also made sense. Maybe they did beef that up.
Yeah, especially I think it's really noticeable when, say, week 1 of the side quest we had, and I love this. It's one of my favorite weeks. Is when we had the unblockable buff with Colossus, and it's very. You now kind of can rush at an enemy who's blocked and go, do you know what? You're not going to do your crazy, silly AI response anytime I hit into a block. I'm going to be able to unblockably hit you with a striker. And it's just so nice to watch something that is somewhat annoying just crumble in its just this beautiful, aggressive play style. I just honestly really like it. But anyway, moving on to incursions. Incursions is something of an odd one to talk about, as I I'm more interested in I'd love to see a solo version of Incursions, but I don't know where are Incursions at with both of you. I mean, Dan, I know you do Incursions regularly, and you've got a regular person you play with. Are you still keeping up to date with playing?
Yeah, I mean, I have a standing Monday night Incursions date.
That's lovely.
So and that's fun for me because again, it's like, hey man, like take down node 1, how was work? Ask what are you up to? What's going on here? What's going on there? So I like the social aspect of it, and it feels low pressure. Sometimes I have a bad night. Sometimes he has a bad night. Sometimes we both are playing pretty well, and we get all our zones done. But hey, overall, I like Incursions because I think it's got creativity and it's like it's high reward on the fun with like low risk of feeling bad. It's like we'll get them next time if you run into something stupid. So that's what I like about it is it's just kind of like a sandbox and it's got that social element to it.
Yeah, Vega, do you play Incursion?
No, not really. I mean, the scenario Dan explained sounds amazing, and I would like it under that situation. But my experience with it was very different. I know a lot of that's my own fault, but it was typically competitive. There's For Loki does this like tournament where it's like a sabotage. I won't take the time to explain it all, but you're actually playing against your partner. You're trying to sabotage them, and so streaming that and then trying to coordinate my schedule with someone else's. It became a poor use of time for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, that seems like you're doing some stress management with not stress, but kind of like pressure or aggravation management. It essentially is time management that you're looking at to kind of go, well, look, as much as I kind of think this is relatively fun, I'm maybe kind of like, if I feel bad of something going on, and I'm like, well, I'd rather take myself away from that, maybe focus the time elsewhere in my life. Is that kind of like the feeling you might have had?
Absolutely. It was like when I look down on trying to play the game, enjoy it, and also create content, and then the rest of my life, it just didn't fit in. The one thing I'll say, though, is I did think that Incursions makes you a better player.
Yeah.
I think because, again, it's nuance. It's like forced nuance in understanding the kit of your champion versus these nodes that are just building and building, and the hacks, I remember if they're called, on your champion. So I do think it's a great way to improve at the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you want to see anything like a solo type Incursions, or actually let's rephrase it? Would you like to see a new type of game mode? I mean, we will talk about solo competitive in a minute, but is there any type of game mode that you would specifically like to see that would take in the balance of, say, your time management and fun and kind of put them together?
I've never really thought about that. There was some thought. I don't remember where I saw it, about kind of like this. It reminded me of World of Warcraft, where like going into a dungeon and everyone participates to take down a boss.
Yeah.
I thought that sounded potentially really cool, where you brought in your one champion and you either potential for a phase of it or something like that. But I think with War, the way I play War, I'm not really looking for another way to have that exhilaration or defeat on a daily basis. Like that sort of adrenaline and excitement and 3 times a week is enough.
Yeah.
So,
would you feel like, I know that solo competitive mode is around the corner and it's going to be looking like the Summoner Showdown meets what is now the current meta for Alliance Wars. Is that going to be something you're going to be interested in, or is it doesn't tick your boxes?
It depends, right? If I'm intrigued by it. I'll admit I did not watch the Summoner Showdown. I'm aware of the controversies on it and things like that. It sounds like a lot of fun. The ability to use my roster and to go and fight against friends, I think sounds like a ton of fun. I'm really interested in that. I have a bit of a fear or / kind of uncomfortable feeling with it, in that one of the things I'm really trying to advise is like take the fun seriously, like you're saying, find your fun. In War, what I enjoy about it is the strategy and the camaraderie. I'm saying, like, I'm not comparing myself with these people spending $30,000 and more. I'm glad they exist because it helps fund the game I'm playing.
Yeah.
But in no point of it, in none of it, as I'm like really thinking it through, I'm stress testing it myself. Is it like I'm better than this person?
Yeah.
Like in fact, I'm actually actively trying to say, don't compare yourself with other people, right?
Yes.
And I have, let's just based on gaming experience, I do have concerns about that starting to potentially come out. I know me personally, and there's a lot of amazing players who don't have channels, right?
Yeah.
I name them that no one will know who I'm talking about. But like, I am also looking forward to going against Legacy and Metal Sonic Dude and whoever, right? And maybe I win 1 out of 10. Maybe I lose all 100. I don't know, but I am looking forward to that sort of challenge. I just know that I'm going to have to monitor myself, and my quote unquote advice would be, don't get too worked up on it.
Yeah.
A better way to phrase it right away.
Because then that's something again that will kind of go. This is basically the first time we'll see some element of PvP in this game, and that will then put pressure on yourself to succeed, and also adds in other elements if it's tied to your own roster. Because if you say, okay, well, how do you sort out the matchmaking of that? Is it going to be somebody that started the game last week versus somebody like MSD, for example? Hey, you're going to lose. You have these champions that won't be very good against other champions that will be not in the case of they won't be fighting one another, but the availability of champions to take on the node presets you're going to assign each other. Somebody new to the game that doesn't really understand what they should be banning and what they should be allowing, and someone who would be able to go, do you know what? That's easy. I'm just going to ban that and whatever, and then we're fighting. Depending on as well how relics will form a basis of assistance in that instance will be another key factor as well, because that will, depending if you'll have to spend lots of money, you might be able to get the best relics. Don't know, system hasn't been released yet, but it does always come back to what we've kind of like said in this podcast, and as you said, with finding happiness and how to keep happy with the game. And for us, it's in essence it's finding what is fun without being so, not finding too much pressure and stress with a game. So, right, is there anything else, Dan, we should be talking about and addressing?
No, I think that's about it, Rich. I think we got through everything, and we're a little over an hour now, so I think this is a good point to wrap things up. But Vega, I want to say thank you for joining us. Really enjoyed. I've been enjoying your content a lot. I feel like you kind of had like the breakout MCOC YouTube channel of 2021. You just went over 10,000 subscribers. So just want to say congratulations on the channel, and we're looking forward to seeing what you're going to be doing this year.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's an absolute honor. Me 2 years ago would be blown away by hearing that I was on this podcast.
Thank you for the kind words, and yeah, absolutely, you're killing it. As said, links in the description to everything. What's your plans next week, Vega? Or do you have any plans or content you might be working on?
For YouTube for next week?
Yeah.
Well, on Monday, I'm doing a Synergy series.
Fantastic.
And Dragon Man's coming out. I felt like it's really smart with champions that are in the latest featured crystal.
Nice.
And he's got a synergy that really helps people answer the most common complaint about him, which is getting into his damage quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm hoping to finally get enough footage of Miguel, Spider-Man 99, rank 4. People enjoy seeing rank 4s, getting that out there. And then War Season's finally coming back.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I was joking in line chat, and I was like, hey, guys, Kabam says this new mode of the game's coming back. It's called War. So I'm excited. I think we're going to get punished, though. This off-season war we just took, the nodes are different. Let's just put it that way. So I'm looking forward to that.
Nice. Dan, what are you planning for next week?
Next week, going to work on another chapter of 7.2.
Brilliant.
And I'm really interested to see what happens with the Summoner's Choice champion voting, because we're going to get the finals next week. I ended up going with Agatha and Beta Ray Bill for this round.
Nice.
So I'm really just I'm curious to see who ends up in the finals.
Absolutely. We'll wait for that and see who's going to be crowned the winner. And I think it's going to be a spicy, hopefully it's a little twist. But in any case, that has been a podcast. Thanks to Vega and obviously Dan. As always, you can find links to both of them in the descriptions and bios below. And we'll see you next time for the next episode of the podcast. Cheers, everybody. Have a lovely weekend and week. Bye-bye.